Ellen Pao shook up Silicon Valley when she sued her former employer for gender discrimination, and now she's speaking out for the first time since her claims for $16 million in damages were rejected in an interview with Yahoo's Katie Couric. Ellen Pao, once a junior partner at the tech world's premier venture capital firm, now a face in the fight for gender equality. In 2012, Pao sued her former employer for $16 million, saying the company failed to promote her because she's a woman, and later fired her for filing a gender discrimination lawsuit. Her story made headlines around the world, giving a unique glimpse of what it's like to work in the heart of Silicon Valley as a woman.
I have told my story, and thousands of people have heard it.
Last month, a jury of 6 women and 6 men rejected Pao's claims of gender discrimination. In her first interview since the verdict, she sat down with Yahoo Global News anchor Katie Couric.
Looking back on the last 3 years, do you have any regrets?
Hearing so much support from so many people has been really rewarding. And I think they realize now that this is something that a lot of women face.
The jury found no discrimination, but will the suit be a wake-up call for the technology industry?
The total number of women partners in venture capital firms has declined significantly since 1999. Why are we seeing this decline?
There's less of a set of role models that you want to be. You don't see that many women or African American or Hispanic CEOs in Silicon Valley.
You have a 6-year-old daughter. What will you say to her?
I would say to her that it was hard, but it was rewarding, and you just have to look past the hard parts and just keep going.
Let's talk about this now with Rebecca Jarvis, ABC Chief Business Correspondent, and Tori Johnson, our workplace contributor, CEO of Women for Hire. Now, the jury decided this was Ellen Pao, this was based on her performance. It was not discrimination, but it did start a whole conversation about the kind of discrimination women face in the workplace, the blatant and the subtle.
And oftentimes, George, it is subtle and it's also subconscious. And that's part of the issue here. I started my career in finance and I was always outnumbered, but I wasn't always an outsider. This is something now that every business leader is talking about. They are looking at their own institutions and they're saying, we have to have a greater awareness about this, and we also have to figure out how to even the scales and also root out that subtle, that subconscious, unaware part of sexism.
And you deal with these issues every single day, and I think a lot of women did nod their heads at some of the stories they heard.
Absolutely. And because Ellen stepped up, we're talking about it. And so talk can either be cheap or talk can bring about change. And if we want change, I think it's up to each of us in our individual workplaces to identify those subtle but sometimes insidious behaviors. So sure. So it's, it's the man who cuts off the woman every time she's speaking in a meeting. It's the woman who is assertive and outspoken, but she's suddenly labeled aggressive or bossy. It's the assumption that a mom can't hold a senior role because she's, too busy with her kids. It's the decisions that are made among men behind closed doors, either in the boardroom or a late night dinner or the golf course, when there simply are no women or minorities present. So if you see that kind of behavior, you've got to be willing to call it out, to speak up about it. And women alone can't carry the torch for this. Men have to be part of this conversation.
Will this lead to change?
I think it will lead to introspection on the part of leaders, on the part of managers, and that's my hope, that not only there is action, but that people really think about those biases, think about the things, the decisions they make, the things that they say that may or may not be intended to be that way.
Check yourself every time.
Yep,
okay?
that's right.
Thanks both very much. You can watch Katie's full interview with Ellen Pao on yahoo.com and tonight on Nightline.